Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to Dark Tales of the Mind. I'm your host, Lucian Graves. It's been a rough week. Hopefully, better for y'all than it has been for me. I apologize for the emotional trauma that I have been putting y'all through. This has never been my intentions. I know that it has taken me way longer than it should have to get the entirety of my book, St. Samuel, out. It was only supposed to originally take me like a week and a half, but there's been a lot of chaos happen. And today we are doing St. Samuel chapter 6. And then right behind that one, I'm doing 7. So we're doing 6, 7. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that to y'all. But I really hope that y'all have been enjoying my videos. Again, I apologize for the low cost production end of things. I am balling on a budget, trying to make do with what I've got. And without further ado, I will go ahead and I will start chapter 6. It's called Into Hell's Mouth. Into Hell's Mouth We March. I stole the title from this. We got inspiration for it, but from one of my favorite bands called Vana. It is actually the title to one of their songs, but I felt like it fit this chapter perfectly. If you have been following along so far, you'll understand. And if not, go back through the catalog and get caught up. I don't ask for likes, comments, or subscribes, but if you feel like it, by all means, let me get on to the chapter. I'm sorry for the squirrel. The road to Houston stretched long and empty, a black ribbon cutting through the vast nothingness of the Texas night. The rhythmic hum of Samuel's tires was the only sound, a steady pulse in the quiet tension of a suffocating car. Rachel sat beside him, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, staring out the window. She hadn't spoken much since they left, but her presence alone felt like an anchor, a reminder of what was at stake. Samuel's hands gripped the wheel, knuckles white. He had done a lot of things to survive, a lot of things he wasn't proud of. But this was something else. This wasn't another job. This wasn't just about keeping Ruiz happy. This was about getting out. The only way to do that was to walk straight into hell and pray they made it back. Rachel finally broke the silence. How do you know he won't see it coming? Samuel exhaled slowly. Because he thinks he owns me. Rachel turned to look at him, her gaze sharp, searching. Doesn't he? Samuel clenched his jaw, staring at the road ahead. Not yet. She didn't push, didn't argue, because she knew the truth. They were about to find out just how much of himself he still had left. The East End warehouse loomed ahead, a monolith of rusted steel and concrete, bathed in flickering orange from the broken streetlights. The air smelled like oil, metal, and something darker, something rotten. Samuel pulled into the lot, parking near the back. His pulse was steady, but his mind was ready. Mapping the exits, cataloging every possible threat. Rachel reached for his hand. He let her. You're not alone in this, she whispered. Samuel wished he could believe that, but once he stepped inside, it wouldn't just be him Ruiz tested. It would be both of them. And failure meant they wouldn't be walking out. Rachel's fingers squeezed his once before she let go. Let's do this. Samuel nodded, exhaling one last breath. Then, without another word, they stepped into the dark, into hell's mouth, and prayed it didn't swallow them whole. The inside of the warehouse smelled like oil, mildew, and the faint coppery trace of blood long since scrubbed from the concrete. Shadows stretched long under dim, flickering fluorescence. Samuel walked in. Samuel walked in first, his shoulders squared, his expression unreadable. Rachel stayed a step behind, her presence quiet and steady. Ruiz was already there, seated at a rusted metal table in the center of the room. He looked relaxed, his suit crisp, his watch gleaming under the sticky light, but his eyes missed nothing. You're early, Ruiz mused, lighting a cigarette. The faint glow illuminated the smirk tugging at his lips. Figured that'd be good, Samuel said evenly. Ruiz exhaled smoke, studying him, then chuckled. Smart. Shows me you're serious. He gestured toward the two men flanking him, both armed, both watching Samuel like he was a problem waiting to happen. Serious is good. Samuel nodded once, saying nothing. Ruiz took another drag, then leaned forward. Tonight's important, amigo. I need to know if I can trust you. His eyes flicked towards Rachel and her. Rachel didn't flinch. I'm here because I choose to be, she said coolly. Ruiz grinned. Loyalty, that's rare. His gaze drifted back to Samuel. Loyal men are hard to find these days. Samuel forced himself to hold Ruiz's gaze. You don't have to worry about me. Ruiz exhaled slowly, considering him, and then gestured towards the table. Show me. Samuel's stomach tightened. A man was seated there, bound, beaten, gagged. His face was swollen, one eye completely shut, blood crusted along his temple, staining the collar of his torn shirt. Ruiz gestured lazily. This cabron thought he could do business without me, thought he could move weight in my city using my routes. Now he's a lesson. Samuel's pulse thudded in his ears. He didn't have to ask what Ruiz expected. The answer was clear. Consider this your final test, Ruiz said, voice smooth, coaxing. You've handled problems for me before, but this one's different. Rachel stiffened beside him. Samuel barely breathed. You pull that trigger, Ruiz continued, and I'll know, really know, that you belong in this world. His smirk deepened. And more importantly, that you belong to me. The room felt smaller, tighter. Samuel's fingers twitched at his side. He knew what Ruiz was doing, and this wasn't about the kill. This was about control. Ruiz wanted to see if Samuel would hesitate, if there was still part of him left to save. Rachel's breath was slow, measured, but Samuel felt the tension rolling off her. She was waiting to see what he would do. Samuel swallowed, then stepped forward. He could feel Ruiz watching him, measuring him. This was the moment that would decide everything. Slowly, Samuel reached for the gun. Ruiz slid across the table. His fingers wrapped around the grip. He felt Rachel shift beside him, silent and waiting. Ruiz exhaled, pleased. Good. Now do it. Samuel stared at the bound man. The man looked up at him, eyes pleading. Samuel's heartbeat was slow, steady, too steady. Because in this moment, he knew this wasn't about survival anymore. This was about winning. And if he wanted to get out, if he wanted to protect Rachel, to protect his son, then he had to make Ruiz believe. He had to make Ruiz trust him completely. So Samuel raised the gun and pulled the trigger. The shot echoed, loud and final. The man slumped forward, blood pooling beneath him. Ruiz grinned, nodding approvingly. Damn, Samuel. You don't even flinch anymore. He leaned back, satisfied. I knew you had it in you. Samuel forced himself to breathe, to stay still. Ruiz stood, clapping him on the shoulder. I think it's time we talked about your future. Samuel nodded, hiding the war inside of himself. Rachel stayed silent, but her fingers brushed his slightly, just for a second, a reminder. Samuel wasn't sure if she was telling him she understood, or if she was mourning what he had just become. The air in the warehouse grew heavier as Ruiz walked around the dead man's body, his polished shoes clicking against the blood-slick floor. Samuel stood frozen, the gun still in his hand, the silence pressing down on him like an anvil. Ruiz stopped in front of him, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "You're ready for the next step," he said, his voice smooth, like he was speaking to a trusted ally instead of a tool. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope, handing it to Samuel. "Take this. It's yours. You've earned it." Samuel stared at the envelope, his fingers numb as they closed around it. "What's this?" Ruiz's grin deepened, showing his teeth. "A new job, a new responsibility. I'm putting you in charge of more than just deliveries now." He leaned in. His voice was low and was a low murmur. "You'll be handling things that go beyond menial work. You'll be making decisions that affect the whole operation." Samuel's heart thudded in his chest. He was moving up the ladder, but every step he took deeper into this world meant he was further from the man he once was and the man he once wanted to be. Ruiz continued, obvious to the turmoil brewing inside Samuel. "I trust you, Samuel. You've proven yourself, and if you continue like this, you'll have everything you ever wanted, the life you dreamed of for you and your family." Samuel clenched his jaw, trying to ignore the bitter taste of the words. "And if I don't?" Ruiz's eyes narrowed, his smirk falling away. "Then we'll see if you're really cut out for this life. There's always a price, Samuel, but I don't think you'll be running from this one anytime soon." The words hung in the air like smoke. Ruiz's reward was no gift, it was a trap, a golden cage wrapped in a promise of power. But then Ruiz's expression softened just for a second. "I'm not a monster," he paused. His gaze lingered on Samuel, a strange look crossing his face. "You'll have what you need. The fight with your ex? Consider it over." Samuel blinked, confusion clouding his mind. "What do you mean?" "I've taken care of it. You'll have the advantage in court," Ruiz said, almost casually, like it was nothing. "You just need to focus on the work. You can have it all, your kid, your family, this life, if you want it." Samuel's stomach twisted. The words sounded like a promise, but they felt like chains. "You can have it all." The phrase echoed in his head as Ruiz walked away, leaving Samuel with the envelope, the reward, and the weight of it all pressing down on him. The sound of footsteps echoed behind him. Rachel stepped forward, her eyes scanning his face. "What did he say?" she asked, her voice tight with worry. Samuel's fingers clenched around the envelope, the edges digging into his palm. He couldn't even look at her. "He's given me what I need, everything to win." Rachel's eyes narrowed, the worry in them deepened. "At what cost, Samuel?" Samuel turned to face her, the weight of the moment crashing down on him. He wanted to tell her that it was worth it, that they would finally have a chance at a real life, that he could fix everything. But as he looked into her eyes and he saw the doubt, the fear, and part of him realized that he was losing her too. He closed his eyes, running a hand through his hair, his mind reeling, and then, for a moment, the world went still. He looked down at the envelope, and suddenly the man he saw in the mirror didn't look like the man he had been a year ago. There was no trace of the person who worked the oil fields, who fought to get custody of his child, who dreamed of a better life for both of them. Now all he saw was a man covered in blood, carrying the weight of decisions that could never be undone. A man who had killed for power, who had sold his soul, who had become the one thing he feared most. He wasn't sure if it had happened. He wasn't sure when it had happened, but he had crossed a line, and now he's in too deep to turn back. "Samuel," Rachel's voice broke through his thoughts. He blinked, his vision blurry. He couldn't let her see it, not yet. But as she took a step closer, he realized something. The last shred of humanity he had been clinging to, the part of him that tried to keep his soul intact, the part of him was slipping away. And the worst part, he didn't know if he cared anymore. The envelope felt like it was burning a hole in Samuel's hands. He could feel it. He could feel Rachel's eyes on him, searching for something, some reassurance, some proof that he hadn't changed, but he had. And the worst part, he wasn't sure if there was any way back. He shoved the envelope back into his jacket. His jaw tightened. "It's done," he said, his voice low and final. Rachel shook her head, stepping closer. "No, it's not." Samuel turned to her, his patience fraying. "What do you want me to say, Rachel? That I regret it? That I didn't mean to pull the trigger?" He let out a sharp breath. "Because if that's what you're waiting for, you'll be waiting for a long time." Her expression faltered, but she didn't back down. "I just want to know who I'm looking at right now." Samuel opened his mouth, but no words came out, because he didn't know the answer either. Before either of them could say more, Ruiz's voice cut through the thick silence. "Samuel." He turned, masking the storm brewing inside of him. Ruiz was standing by the door, his sharp gaze flicking between him and Rachel. There was something almost amused in his expression, like he was enjoying watching Samuel unravel. "One last thing before the night's over. Before the night's over," Ruiz said, motioning for him to follow. Rachel's grip tightened around Samuel's wrist, a silent plea, but he pulled away because there was no choice. Not anymore. Ruiz led Samuel outside to the back of the warehouse. The night was thick with humidity, the air stifling. A single car idled a few feet away, its taillights glowing red like eyes in the dark. A man stood beside it, a tall, older, dressed in simple button-downs and slacks, his hands cuffed in front of him. He didn't look scared, just resigned. Samuel's stomach turned. He already knew where this was going. "This," Ruiz gestured toward the man, "is your final test." Samuel didn't move. Ruiz smirked as if he had an expected hesitation. "Relax. You don't have to pull the trigger this time," he nodded towards the car. "You just have to drive." Samuel exhaled slowly. "Drive where?" Ruiz's smirk widened. "You ask too many questions." Samuel's hands curled into fists at his side. He was being tested again, not just his loyalty, but his willingness to follow orders without hesitation. "Get in," Ruiz said. Samuel's heart pounded. This wasn't just a drive, this was an execution. But he forced himself to nod. "Good," Ruiz said. "You do this and I'll know for sure that you're one of us." The road stretched long and empty ahead of them. The only sound the steady the steady hum of the tires on the pavement. The man on the passenger seat hadn't spoken since they had left the warehouse. Samuel could feel the weight of his presence, the quiet acceptance in his posture, like he knew exactly what was coming. Finally, Samuel broke the silence. "What did you do?" The man turned his head slightly, regarding him with tired eyes. "It doesn't matter." Samuel's grip tightened on the wheel. "Do you know where we're going?" he asked. The man gave a faint, humorless chuckle. "I think we both do." Samuel swallowed hard, his pulse hammering against his ribs. He wasn't tonight. He wasn't a driver tonight. He was a ferryman, delivering a soul to its final destination. The drop-off point was a clearing just past the county line, an abandoned stretch of road swallowed by darkness. A second car was already waiting, headlights dimmed, no plates. Samuel pulled up, killed the engine. For a moment he just sat there, his hands gripping the wheel. His breath felt too loud in the silence. Then the door opened. Footsteps approached. The back door of the waiting car swung open. Ruiz's men leaned into the passenger side window, looking at the man next to Samuel. "Get out." The man didn't hesitate. He opened the door, stepped out, didn't even look back. Samuel clenched his jaw as he watched him disappear into the darkness. A muffled gunshot rang out. Samuel flinched, then silence. It was over. The man, whoever he was whatever he had done was gone. Just like that, Samuel closed his eyes. He had known the second he got behind the wheel what was going to happen, but knowing didn't make it any easier. This wasn't so hard, was it? Samuel looked up. Ruiz's man was standing by the window smirking. Ruiz will be pleased, he said. Then he nodded at the road ahead. Go home, Samuel. You did good tonight. Samuel didn't answer. He turned the key, starting the car, and drove. But as the dark highway stretched ahead of him, he felt it, the last piece of himself breaking. And this time, there was nothing left to hold on to. The highway stretched ahead, empty and endless. Samuel's fingers clenched the wheel, his knuckles wide as the tail lights of the second car fading into the darkness. Behind him, the gunshot still echoed in his ears, ricocheting off the inside of his skull like a curse he couldn't shake. He passed Ruiz's final test. He was in. Then why did it feel like he had just sealed his own coffin shut? The night pressed in around him, thick and suffocating. The silence wasn't empty. It was waiting. Something was coming. His phone vibrated on the passenger seat. Samuel hesitated before glancing at the screen. Unknown number. A chill crawled up his spine. He swiped to answer, yeah. For a moment, nothing. Then the low hum of static, and then, I saw what you did. Samuel's pulse spiked. Who is this? You think you can just walk away from it, don't you? His grip tightened on the wheel. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. A sharp, humorless laugh crackled through the speaker. You're deeper than you think, Samuel, and now there's no crawling back out. Samuel swallowed hard, his breath coming faster. His eyes darted to the rearview mirror, empty highway, but his gut twisted with the certainty that he wasn't alone. The voice dropped to a whisper, low and venomous. You should have made sure he was dead. A jolt of ice shot through Samuel's veins. The man, the one he had driven to his execution, he was still alive. Samuel's mind raced. He heard the gunshot. He seen the body drop. Ruiz's man didn't miss. Did he? The line went dead. Samuel exhaled sharply, his hands thick with sweat. His instincts screamed trap. If this was real, the man Ruiz had ordered killed was still breathing, and he was coming for Samuel. But if it was a bluff, it meant something worse. Someone was watching him. He pressed down on the accelerator, his heart hammering. The road ahead blurred, the weight of the night pressing against his chest. Ruiz had said this was the final test, but what if the real test was just beginning? Samuel's pulse hammered against his ribs. The call had gone dead, but the words lingered, sinking their hooks deep into his mind. You should have made sure he was dead. He gritted his teeth, forcing his breathing to slow. It had to be a mistake. The man was dead. He had to be, unless his phone vibrated again. Same unknown number. He hesitated only for a second before answering. Who the hell is this? Silence, then a low chuckle, slow and calculated. We finally speak. A shiver crawled down Samuel's spine. The voice was different now, more controlled, deeper. This wasn't some faceless nobody. You must be wondering how I'm still breathing, the voice mused. How a dead man is calling you in the middle of the night. Samuel's fingers tightened around the wheel. I don't play games. Oh, but you do. You've been playing since the day you met Ruiz. You just didn't know the stakes. Samuel swallowed hard. His mouth was dry. You drove me to die tonight, the voice continued, smooth as silk, and yet I am here. Samuel's gut twisted. Who are you? A long pause, then. I'm the man Ruiz answers to. Samuel's stomach dropped. The head of the organization. The man he had driven tonight to his execution site. The man Ruiz's enforcer had put a bullet in. He wasn't just alive, he was in control. Samuel's mind spun. How? Why? What the hell kind of test was this? You handled yourself well, Samuel. Better than expected, the voice continued. Ruiz wasn't sure if you had it in you, but I knew. I see things he doesn't. Samuel's breath came sharp and fast. So what now? You come for me, or is this just another test? The man laughed softly, as genuinely amused. Come for you? No. Samuel, you proved yourself tonight. Samuel's jaw locked. By driving you to your own execution? Exactly. Cold sweat slid down Samuel's spine. You see, loyalty isn't proven when things are easy. It's tested in fire. And you, Samuel, you passed. Samuel exhaled, trying to steady himself. What do you want from me? More than Ruiz did. The words landed heavy. He sees you as an errand boy, a soldier to be broken and rebuilt. I see you as something else, a man with purpose, a man who's desperate enough to do anything to survive. And those are the men I keep close. Samuel's throat tightened, closer than Ruiz. Tell me, Samuel, would you like to see what it's like to sit at my table? Samuel stared out the empty road ahead. He had been drowning so far. He had been drowning for so long, clawing for something, anything to pull himself back to the surface. And now the devil himself was offering him a seat. The road stretched endlessly in front of Samuel, but it was in that moment he wasn't driving anymore. He was falling. Everything he had done, every step deeper into the abyss, had led him to this. Ruiz had been the monster in his nightmares, the hand tightening around his throat, but Ruiz was just a cog in the machine, a gatekeeper. And tonight, Samuel walked right through the gate. He gripped the phone tighter, forcing his voice steady. If I say yes, what does that mean? A pause, then the voice on the other end. The man who should have been dead, the man who ran everything Ruiz thought he controlled, chuckled softly. It means you stop being a pawn. Samuel exhaled slowly, his mind racing. He had been a pawn since the beginning, desperate, trapped, trying to convince himself that he could still claw his way out, but there was no way out. Maybe there never had been. I know what you're thinking, the man continued, his tone smooth, that this is the point of no return. That if you take this step, you lose what's left of yourself. Samuel said nothing. But here's the truth, Samuel, the voice sharpened, low and absolute. You lost the moment you pulled the trigger. Samuel's stomach twisted. You think you're drowning. Then stop fighting the current. Let it carry you, and I will make sure you never go under. Samuel closed his eyes for a brief second. Ruiz had been using him. The whole time he had been a means to an end, a mule, a driver, muscle when needed. But this was something else, power. He thought of Rachel, of the custody battle, of the son he swore he was doing this for. And for the first time, he didn't try to convince himself that he was still doing it for him. This was for himself, for survival, for the truth he had tried so hard to bury. Do we have an understanding, Samuel? His grip on the wheel tightened. He wasn't drowning anymore. He was becoming the current. He exhaled sharply, his voice calm. Yeah, a satisfied silence then. Welcome to the top. The line went dead. Samuel stared at the road ahead, the same stretch of highway he had driven 1,000 times, but it felt different now. Because tonight he wasn't running anymore. Tonight he had chosen, and there was no going back. The highway blurred beneath him, endless and empty, but Samuel's mind was anything but still. His fingers drummed against the steering wheel, the weight of the call still settling in his bones. Welcome to the top. It didn't feel like the top. It felt like standing on the edge of a skyscraper, staring down into an abyss that had been waiting for him all along. His phone vibrated again. This time it was Ruiz. Samuel exhaled slowly, then answered. It's done, he said, before Ruiz could speak. A beat of silence. Then, is it? Samuel frowned. What's that supposed to mean? You tell me, cabron. You're talking to him now, aren't you? Samuel's grip tightened. Ruiz knew. You should be thanking me, Samuel said coolly. If I wasn't who I am, I'd be dead in the dirt with your guide tonight. But I'm here, and now I answer to him. Ruiz chuckled, but there was no humor in it. Careful, Hermano. The top is a lonely place. Samuel let the words hang. He knew what Ruiz wasn't saying, that he was on borrowed time, that men who climb too fast usually fell harder. I hope you're ready, Ruiz said, because he doesn't pick men just to let them sit. He'll want more from you. Samuel already knew that. He could feel it creeping in, the expectation. The test wasn't over, it was only the beginning. Get some sleep, Ruiz added. You'll need it. The line went dead. Samuel exhaled and pulled into the motel parking lot. The place was cheap, anonymous, somewhere he could disappear for the night. He killed the engine and then leaned his head back against the seat. His body was exhausted, but his mind wouldn't stop. Rachel's voice echoed in his head. We can figure this out together, Sam. You don't have to do this alone. He had wanted to believe her. For a moment he had. But Rachel didn't understand this world, didn't understand what it did to men like him. Samuel stepped out of the truck, the cool air brushing against his skin, his stomach twisted, the weight of what he had just done. Ruiz was right. The top was a lonely place, and he had never felt more alone. The knock came just after midnight. Samuel had been sitting on the edge of the stiff motel bed, head in his cigarette burning low between his fingers. He hadn't expected to sleep, not after the night he had had. But he hadn't expected this either. The knock came again, softer this time, hesitant. Samuel's gut twisted. No one should know where he was. He grabbed the pistol from the nightstand, tucking it behind his back as he approached the door. The peephole showed a familiar silhouette, hair damp from the night air, arms wrapped around herself as if for a second guessing her decision to come. Rachel. Samuel closed his eyes briefly. Of course it was Rachel. He cracked the door open just enough to meet her eyes. They were searching, wide and uncertain. You shouldn't be here, he muttered. She lifted her chin slightly. Neither should you. A long silence stretched between them. Then finally, are you going to let me in? Samuel hesitated, then stepped back, opening the door just enough for her to slide inside. She moved past him, arms still wrapped around herself, gaze sweeping the room, the crumpled pack of cigarettes on the nightstand, the half-empty bottle of whiskey by the sink, the gun, now resting on the nightstand. She turned back to him. You look like hell. Samuel let out a dry, humorless chuckle. That's generous. Rachel didn't smile. She stepped closer, her voice soft. Sam, what's happening to you? Samuel turned away, running a hand through her hair. Nothing you need to worry about. Don't do that, she snapped, surprising him. Don't shut me out. Like I don't see it, like I don't know. His jaw clenched. No what? She took another step forward, voice barely above a whisper. That you're slipping. Samuel felt something twist deep in his chest. You think I don't notice? She continued. The way you're always looking over your shoulder, the way you barely talk about the case anymore, even though you said it was all that mattered. Her eyes searched his face. I know you, Sam. I know when you're drowning. Samuel swallowed hard, looking away. I'm handling it. Rachel shook her head, frustrated, frustration flashing across her face. Are you? Because it looks like you're burying yourself alive. Silence stretched between them, then softer. Talk to me. Samuel exhaled, rubbing his hand over his face. He wanted to. God, he wanted to. But how could he tell her the truth? That he had driven a man to his execution tonight, only to find out the bastard was his new boss. That he had just accepted a place at the top of a world that would swallow him whole. That he wasn't sure he wanted to fight anymore. He looked at Rachel, the only person left who still saw him and not the man he was becoming. And for the first time, he wondered how much longer that would last. Samuel sat at the edge of the bed, elbows resting on his knees, staring at the floor like it held the answers to all of his questions. He couldn't bring himself to ask. Rachel stood near the door, arms still wrapped around herself, her presence too familiar and yet too far away. Say something, she whispered. Samuel exhaled sharply, shaking his head. What do you want me to say, Rachel? I want you to tell me the truth, she said, voice steady despite the weight of it. The real truth. No half answers, no shutting down. Just tell me what's happening to you. Samuel let out a humorless laugh. The truth. He glanced at her, his eyes darker than she remembered. What do you want? What do you really want? He clenched his jaw, forcing out a breath. His mind was a mess, tangled between what he wanted to say and what he couldn't. But the pressure inside of him, the weight of it all, it was breaking through piece by piece. You remember when we were kids? He asked suddenly, his voice low. When we thought life was simple? That if you just worked hard, stayed clean, did all the right things, everything would work out? Rachel swallowed, nodding. I remember. Samuel's jaw tightened. It was a lie, all of it. The world doesn't care about right or wrong. It doesn't give a damn about fairness. His voice wavered just for a second. You play the game or you get played. Rachel's brow furrowed. What game, Sam? His hands curled into fists. He wanted to tell her, wanted to rip open his chest and let it all spill out. But how do you say it? That you've killed, you've crossed the line, and you're not sure if you're looking for a way back. That part of you, the part that still wants to be good, is dying. His head dropped into his hands. I don't know who I am anymore, Rach. Rachel took a slow, cautious step forward. You're still you, Sam. He let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. No, I'm not. She sat down beside him, close enough for him to feel the warmth of her, but not enough to touch. You think I don't see it, she said softly. That I don't see what this is doing to you. Samuel didn't answer. He couldn't. Rachel's voice wavered. I know you're doing things you don't want to talk about. I know you think this is the only way to fix things, but you're wrong, Sam. She turned to face him, her eyes searching his. The road you're on is going to take you. It's not going to take you where you think it will. I'm sorry. Samuel met her gaze, and for the first time in a long time, something inside of him cracked, because deep down, he knew she was right. His breath hitched a sharp inhale as a lump rose in his throat. I don't know how to stop. Rachel's eyes glistened, her voice barely above a whisper. Then let me help you. Samuel let out a shuddered breath, his hands trembling. He couldn't do this. He couldn't break. Not now. Not when he was in too deep. But Rachel reached out, resting her hand over his. Something inside of him shattered completely. His chest tightened, his breathing turned ragged, and before he could stop it, a sob ripped through him. Not just guilt, not just fear. The overwhelming, crushing realization that there was no way out. Rachel held on to him as he fell apart, her grip firm, steady, and for the first time in a long time, Samuel let himself break. That is the end of chapter 6. If you've made it this far, I absolutely adore you. Y'all are awesome. And I will be back with chapter 7 here in a little bit. No, 6, 7. I'm kidding. I love y'all, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day. And again, I do not expect y'all to like, comment, or subscribe, but if you do, just know you are awesome. I'm sorry my finger wanted to go over here to that little red button there, like my eyes do, but you are awesome. I just wanted to say that, and y'all have a wonderful and blessed day. Thank you.